Hey, everybody. Welcome to our live answer to Facebook questions. You guys email in or hit us on Facebook with questions about how to grow your cleaning company. We answer. Often the amazing Lindsay has a theme, but I think today she just found a bunch of stuff all over the board. So we're just going to do a typical AMA. So if you want to participate, feel free to email support@growmycleaningcompany.com or just join us in the Facebook group and post your questions there. That said, who do we got? What do we got? How can we help, Lindsay?
All right. So first up, we have Amber, and a couple of weeks ago, she had messaged us about the police niche that she had thought of. I don't know if you remember that one, but she's back with more questions. She said, "I have my first staff meeting in 2 weeks. So I'm not sure how to conduct it. What is the structure of the meeting? Are there any cool ideas to make them fun and engaging, and how to handle questions, concerns from staff without looking clueless?"
Yeah, so it's a really good question. The first step is I'm really glad that you're having a meeting. So that's the first step is actually get together. The second piece is to be consistent, right? A lot of times people will start and they won't like the way that goes. So you'll kind of quit or give up. We coach at weekly meetings, monthly parties, quarterly reviews, cadence. And on the weekly meetings, don't fret. They can be 15 minutes long, right? Like it's a great time for people to refresh their supplies. So they kind of need to come in for that anyway. We look at really kind of 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the absolute most of admin stuff. And really 5, 10, 15 minutes should just be celebrations, sharing positive feedback from clients, core values reviews, like let you share how you've seen the other members of your team live in the core values. When they get good, they'll start sharing the core values that they've seen other people doing. So it's just really a lot of celebrating. Should be high energy, fun. Again, 10 to 20 minutes at the most. Ideally 5 minutes of admin, and the rest is just a ton of fun. Have them consistently focus on wins and celebrations and core values and throw in some admin stuff when you can. The big mistake people make is, especially when they're starting, they haven't done one before. So like, I've got so many things I got to talk about. And it's like a 40, 50, 60-minute deal. And it's a bunch of work and it's real heavy. And then nobody likes it. And they're like, oh, I hate weekly meetings. So just give yourself on the first one, maybe just welcome them and 0 to 1 admin things. Just lots of fun, lots of celebrations, client celebrations, personal celebrations and employees, company celebrations, core values. Just make it fun and don't overwhelm them with a bunch of because it's like, I've got all this stuff saved up from forever that we need to talk about. If you're going to be meeting weekly, you can parse this stuff out over the next weeks or months.
And Amber didn't ask this question, Mike, but I'm just curious, what's your view on how do you find a time that works for everyone for those weekly meetings? Like, do you schedule at the beginning of the day? Like, what if people don't work that day? Like,
ideally, great question. Ideally, you're going to have it when you would normally start your day. So as opposed to them going to their first job, they'd come to the weekly meeting, which can be wherever. If you've got an office, it can be there, it can be at a coffee shop. You can rent a WeWork or something. So the location isn't as important, but just whenever they would start their day at their first place, at their first location, you're just going to have them start it at the weekly meeting. And I like having them on Monday just to set the tone for the week. And yeah, I definitely want them at the beginning of the day to kind of get people pumped up and excited and encouraged and, kind of get some because it can be lonely out there just cleaning with yourself or a team member. It's good to be reminded weekly there's a team. So beginning of the week, beginning of the shift, perfect.
One more dumb question. Amber didn't ask it. I'm asking it. Do you pay the cleaners for that meeting?
Yeah, people get a lot of, should it be required? Should it be, do you pay? I would absolutely pay them for it. Again, it should only be 15, 20 minutes. So I'd probably just pack a flat half hour or something. And the second question they ask is it mandatory? I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but it's a real red flag if people aren't coming. If no one wants to come, it's a red flag on how you're conducting the meeting. They're probably too boring, too low energy. People aren't getting value out of them. If one person's not coming, it's a red flag that they're not really wanting to be a part of the team. So yeah, you should pay them. No, they shouldn't be mandatory. But it's, again, if the same person's not coming, making a priority, that's a yellow, if not a red flag.
Got it. All right. Thanks for answering my dumb question.
Well, those are good. Speaking for all those who can't speak for themselves, who are out there screaming at their phone or whatever, listening on with questions. So great job.
They're like, I need more details. I hear you, Cleaning Nation. I hear you. All right. Next up, we have Tana, and she had this Facebook post, and it was just, oh, my heart went out to her. I'm going to read her situation and kind of summarize it. But basically, she opened her business late spring, early summer, and grew very quickly, had a great reputation. Then, unfortunately, her area was hit and declared a disaster zone from Hurricane Helene. So to summarize it, there's more people that need quote unquote restoration right now to get the reimbursements than like actual deep cleans that she does. She barely has any work and doesn't want to lose her cleaners. So her question is, how can she go about an hour away from her town where things are like normal? Do you suggest that? And if so, how would she go about hiring cleaners, getting clients in an area she's not close to? Like, she has a lot of questions. Do I rent a storage unit, leave supplies? What happens if a cleaner bails, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, there's quite a bit packed into that. So first and foremost, I like helping people with what they need, right? And my least favorite thing is when people are like, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. I'm like, why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you sell fire to an Eskimo or something that they could use? Why would you try, So if possible, I would find a way to help the people in the disaster area because they probably need a ton of help. So whether it was restoration or anything, if I could find a way to, A, you make, plenty of money, and B, like, why not try and help the people where you're at? Two, I wouldn't change my whole business model just to not lose cleaners. So a underlying theme that people struggle with is they know how hard it is to get a good cleaner, so they'll just bend over backwards with pay or flexibility or tolerating the cleaner not showing up or just a bunch of trying to modify their whole business to keep cleaners happy. What we want to do is have a hiring funnel so you always have more cleaners coming in than you need, right? So it's again, a red flag for your business if you're like, I've only got these 3 cleaners and it took me a year to get them and I'll never find them again. It's like, well, the goal isn't to just keep these humans happy because cleaning is not a typical long-term kind of thing. It's meant to have people come and go, and that's fine. Most of you don't have a system to have them come, right? So make sure you've got core values-based hiring ad. You've got a hiring funnel that works, ideally that the cleaners run. So I would focus on getting a hiring funnel to work. So even if these people leave, you're still good. That said, her question was, can I go an hour away from town, or like, I can't go an hour away from town. How would I go about hiring cleaners and getting clients? So again, it's the same. I'm just going to look at, I can't imagine this disaster zone. If you're able to run your business, your household is fairly regular, right? I'm just going to find people like, I can't imagine I'm just probably not going to go an hour away for something that's probably, God willing, only going to last a couple weeks or God forbid, a couple months more. So yeah, I mean, anyone can do anything, but if your problem is like, hey, I want to keep these good cleaners because I can't find new ones. You're like, how do I hire in a new town? I'm like, well, we don't really have a hiring system. So I hate to say it because it's like the boring answer, but I would really focus on having systems and processes that work. And the way that we coach people, you can kind of work something virtually, right? Once you've got your systems and processes for your client attraction, employee attraction, they can work from anywhere, but it's a bit advanced if you don't have a good hiring system where you're at and you want to start one locally or an hour away. So it's not that we couldn't help you with something like that. It's just not something I can give you in a 2-minute answer, a 5-minute answer on a Facebook Live without talking to you. So in descending order of complexity or how I would look at it is, if possible, I would find a service that I could offer that had something to do with cleaning, even if it was a little more disaster restoration, so I could marshal my resources to help the people in need. 2, just help, if I couldn't or wouldn't do that, find the people that are less affected, because of all your clients, I can't imagine 100% of them are disaster. And if they are, they probably need cleaning more than ever, right? So, even if your income went down by 50% for a little bit, I would still focus on the 50% I got or try and get clients. I'm still guessing there's people that need cleaning services, even with a hurricane having passed and the shockwaves that left. 3rd, if I couldn't do that, would be to just wait it out. And then 4th would be my last, especially if I didn't have the systems and if I had a cleaning company that was running like a top here and that happened, and I thought it was going to be 3 to 6 months before it before it went back to normal, I'd consider opening somewhere else. But from the very little information I have, that would be my last, I won't say my last resort, but my last choice.
Yeah, someone commented on the post. They said, how about subcontracting out to the restoration companies? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Again, I don't want to get too specific into, I want to make sure we're broadcasting things that can help
Yeah,
everybody, not just a very
true.
specific question.
Yeah.
But to answer that, I don't really see a value add
Mm.
if what's happening is it's a disaster area. The disaster places are going to be booked. So like what value do you add to get them a client? They're like, we have more clients that we can handle. So I don't think that would be it. But again, I don't want to get way into the weeds of a very specific thing. We want to kind of give feedback that will help, everyone with a cleaning business, not just that very specific situation. Hey, Clean Nation, Mike Campion here. One of my least favorite things about these podcasts are we found that people love the show and they love the information, but when I talk to you guys in person, stuff doesn't get done. People love the podcast, but they don't take any action. If you'd like to actually implement this and get this done in your world, we have a whole team of people that do exactly that. If you go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, you can book a time with either myself personally or one of our teammates to at least help you come up with a plan to actually implement and change your life. So if you want to go from getting these good ideas in your head to getting them in your life, just book a free call with myself or my team, growmycleaningcompany.com/talk. And we can go from this one-to-many format to one-to-one and really get you some results. Excited to talk.
Mike, I wanted your take on this. An anonymous poster on Facebook.
Very cagey, planning close to the vest.
Yeah. They want to know, what would you do if you were to make a price estimate and the customer asked your helper's immigration situation? They said, I don't want to answer her because it sounded very rude to me. How could I answer it in a negative but professional way?
Again, these are super specific questions that I don't know are going to be of interest to a vast majority of people. But I mean, you just got to decide what your policy is. I think it's reasonable for people to say, is this person in my home here legally? Like, that's a pretty reasonable question. Again, it's one thing if I'm like, I don't know, we judge Nike for having shoes made across the world and whatever. So if we can kind of hold them accountable to, they can buy or not buy based on what information you're willing to share and what requirements they have of how you treat your people. And you can share that information, not share that information, depending on what you feel. But I think it's kind of an intimate thing to have someone in your home. So and I think that's a reasonable thing. Like, hey, are they here legally? I wouldn't find that wild. Again, it's because I'm not there for the nuance of the question. I can't tell, but globally, to help everybody, if you can run your company any way that you want, you can charge what you want, you can hire who you want, you can do whatever you want. You can do illegal things if you want. I wouldn't recommend it, but if customers go, I don't want to deal with this if it's illegal, and you don't have to take those customers. You're the ones going to have to run the risk of getting in trouble. So everything's at will, right? If they're like, I want your cleaners to hop around on one foot, you have every right to go, I'm not going to accept you as a client, right? And if they say, hey, I need to know that whoever's in my home is here legally, and you're like, I'm not willing to do that, well, they don't have to take you as a cleaner. So in all things, I can give you my opinion on what I would do, but at the end of the day, first and foremost, I would follow the law. Second, I would do what you believe is ethical and moral. And if people don't want to be a part of that, that's okay. But just be empowered. And again, just like I'm not going to run my whole company to keep one cleaner happy. I'm not going to modify my whole operations of my business to keep one customer happy. But if the customer is asking something reasonable and I go, hey, that's reasonable for all my customers to ask, then I might change the way I run my company, but for the benefit of the whole, not just because one particular customer had a thought, if that makes sense, or a complaint or a question or a requirement.
Got it. Yeah, that's a very specific question, but it definitely opens up to, legality of more than we can really go into depth now. But all right, I'm going to switch gears. So actually, Mike, I originally had a theme, but the answers we got were a little kind of all over the place. But what I originally wanted to know was, what was the biggest thing keeping people from working less? So we had the classic from Serena, finding quality employees that will stay. I know we've done a ton of podcasts on this, so I don't know how much you want to dive into that, but take what you will there, Mike.
Well, the reason we've done so many podcasts on it is people are constantly dealing with it all the time. And there's people that are new to the community. So, it's for Lindsay and I, it's a bit of I don't say an old message, but we've heard it. But again, there's a lot of you guys and gals out there that are suffering from that or struggling. And sometimes you need to hear the same thing multiple times, and sometimes just hearing it in a different way will give you some value. So the big thing with the cleaners is there's really two pieces. One is we kind of touched on this earlier, the hiring funnel, which is what's the process to get people to come. And most of the time people it's too little too late. They don't really have a hiring funnel, and or their hiring funnel is just some version of putting up an ad, and they call a bunch of people and nobody responds, and it's just super painful. So because of that, they turn it off way too early because they don't want to deal with it, and they turn it on back on again too slow. So they're way in a desperate situation when they turn it on. So instead of forcing yourself to do something you hate, create a hiring funnel that serves you as opposed to you serving it. So what we would coach you to do is start with a group interview, have those running a couple times a week all the time. You can teach cleaners to run those group interviews. Then you would have a one-on-one interview and a working interview. And again, turn all that over to the cleaners. So step one is just having hiring funnels working all the time, right? Because everyone's like, I need an employee now. It's like, well, you should have started hiring a month ago. So since you don't know when people are going to quit, let's hire sooner. So the first problem is people don't have enough people coming in because they don't have a system that isn't painful. So they turn it off, right? Most of the time they can put an ad and get 1,000 applicants. They just don't know how to turn 1,000 applicants into 3 or 4 good employees. So create a system to do that isn't painful, that you can have running in the background all the time. So step one is having a volume of applicants. Step two is run your company with some core values, right? Cleaning is a low wage job that is a lot of work, and they could all get a better job tomorrow, right? Chick-fil-A, or there's just so many jobs that probably pay a little more, maybe a little less work. So the thing that you've got to offer that you have to offer something they can't get anywhere else, which is the experience of the job, right? You can create a culture, a community that people want to be a part of. So it's like, the last job I had, they didn't really learn my name until I'd been there, or super corporate, or they didn't really care about me, or, everybody was treated the same. Whereas you can kind of create a culture based on your core values. For us, it's have fun, make money, be real, and help out. And again, the weekly meetings, the monthly parties, the quarterly reviews. So people think a lot of times it's money. Well, everyone pays more. It's really not. You have to pay fairly, right? If you're trying to screw people or pay below, you're going to have a hard time. You can still make it happen with a good enough culture, but it's hard. If you're paying, we like to coach people to pay just a little bit above what everyone else is paying, or not what everyone else is paying, but the average. So not to entice people with money, but just to take the money off the table and have them feel like I'm getting treated fair. They value me. But where you can really go nuts is having the experience that they have better than everywhere else. So long story short, it's really 2 pieces. One is to have a consistent flow of applicants coming in and a system to translate applicants into employees or cleaners. And the second piece is to have a core values-based culture that the good people really want to be a part of, because they can't get that anywhere else, right? They can go to the Chick-fil-A and it's a great organization, but it's a big company and there's corporate, and they're not going to have monthly parties. They're not going to be able to get to know probably the coworkers the way. They're not going to have weekly meetings, right? They're just not going to do some things that you can do to be like, oh, I love this place. This is where I want to be. It's not just the money. This is what I enjoy doing.
So we actually have a question from chat. Tamika hopped in, and she wanted to know what paperwork is necessary before onboarding employees specifically.
So people get, we'll kind of wrap with this one. People get, I don't want to say scared, but they get overwhelmed or afraid to hire employees for 2 reasons. One, they think that they can't afford it. And 2, they're afraid of the paperwork. So there's good news on both. On the not being able to afford it, we all pay the same, generally, payroll taxes, workers' compensation, all the associated expenses with hiring employees. Everyone that hires employees pays. And most of the good clients are going to prefer employees over non-employees. And they know that's going to be a little more expensive, right? Just some guy in a mop is going to be cheaper than, you just having some subcontractors that you can't really train or whatever. And the people are like, no, I want a real company with real employees that are trained and uniformed and all that good stuff. Just know it's going to be a little more expensive. And as long as you market to people who want employees and people that are really going to do a good job, not just the cheapest version, you're competing with other people that have employees, and you're all going to pay about the same. So you think you can't afford it, but it's like, well, you can, because everyone that has employee, you can't afford to compete with people that are just one-man shows or one-woman shows, but that's fine. That's not who you're trying to compete with. The second piece on the paperwork side is a legitimate deal, but the cool thing is just sub it out, right? We use ADP or recommend ADP. We've got a contact there. And they do all of it, right? And it costs a couple $100 a month for them to process payroll, whatever they charge. Fine, pay it. So the right answer is just find an expert in your state. It's a lot cheaper. Again, I don't know, $200-300, $400 maybe, depending on how many employees you have. If you're just starting, it'll only be a couple $100 a month. So find a big payroll company and let them let the experts handle the experts. Don't try to be an expert in processing payroll because it's kind of a pain in the butt. So pay someone that knows what they're doing.
All right, Mike, I think that's all we got for today.
Cool. All right, Cleaning Nation. Hopefully that was helpful. If this was general and you're like, I need some specific help, feel free to reach out to us. Instagram, give us a call. Mike at growmycleaningcompany.com is my email. If you want to ask a question for next time, join our Facebook group for free or email us at support@growmycleaningcompany.com. We'll see you soon. Hey, Cleaning Nation, if you dug the content you just got, we don't do any ads and I don't sell anything on this podcast, but if you would just subscribe, rate, and review, it would be huge and I'd be so appreciative. Not only is it going to help me, but you'll help other owners of cleaning companies across the world work less, make more, and get profitable. So if you appreciate the value we give, again, subscribe, rate, and review. It would mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it, and we sure appreciate your time and attention.